What's up, YouTube? Today we're looking at a more sort of techno-orientated tutorial, although I guess you could use the sound in any sort of genre. It's a sort of detuned pumping saw lead that I've heard a lot from the original techno, even through to the sort of more modern stuff. So I'm sure it's something that quite a few guys are looking forward to learning, even though it is quite simple. So for those more advanced sound designers who might be watching my tutorials, this one is a little bit basic, but that being said, you may enjoy just watching it and listening to the sounds and stuff like that. So anyway, this is the sound that we're going to be creating today. But what I'm going to do here in this section is I'm just going to mute most of the sort of synth sounds so we can get a sort of like accurate representation of the actual sound that we're working on today. So I'm making the sound in Serum, but you can make it in pretty much any VST that has got sort of unison settings. But you're also not limited to using unison. You can detune two oscillators together. But yeah, let me show you an easy way to get this sort of sound going. And this might also just be a little bit of a sort of explanation of what unison is for some of those who might not sort of understand the sort of core meaning behind it. So we've got an init instance of Serum over here. And what unison is it's basically duplicating that saw wave and detuning them by the amount that you apply this detune over here. And that creates a kind of unison or chorus kind of effect, and that essentially is what unison is. Now the cool thing about Serum is you can actually go wild and do 16 or crazy unison amounts, but I find for that sort of clean detuned techno saw lead sound, 2 voices is good enough, and we're going to play with this detune setting. So now listen to the difference between when detune is 0. So now both of these sort of oscillators that this unison is generating are playing the same pitch. And as you move this detune up, it kind of spreads the pitch out ever so slightly, and it creates this kind of wider effect. Listen to what's happening here. And here's a little fun fact. In the global menu over here, you can actually set the amount, the range at which it detunes, but we're not going to do that. So you could essentially set it to chords and stuff like that, but we're going to just we're going for kind of more of a sort of non-harmonic kind of sound here. So we're going for we're trying to make it sound like detuned and stuff like that. So let's play with this a little bit and see. So also, I think we should detune it an octave to give it a kind of lower, fatter sound. And that's already starting to take shape for the, I'm sure you guys know, that sound that I'm kind of referencing. So here, this track is in D sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transpose this by 3 over here. And then I'm just going to put in some MIDI clips and let it play while we edit those settings. Here, what I like to do is I like to play with reverb and distortion and stuff, but sometimes I will use reverb before distortion, play with different types of sounds here to kind of get because the actual sort of basic approach to the sound is, so basic, it just uses saw waves and detunes them. I kind of like to get more experimental with the kind of effects and stuff like that to kind of create these kind of more atmospheric type of stuff. And a sort of little trick here that I like to use is to really over compress the signal and then kind of sidechain this gain over here with an LFO. So we'll just drag an LFO over there. And we can actually draw in something like this. So that kind of creates that like pumping effect. So let's have a listen to this. So then once you've got like some effects going and stuff like that, it's pretty cool to use a filter like before the effects to use it to like transition between different sections. So let's say, for example, you use like a high pass before, because that kind of like accentuates that kind of sound a little bit more, makes it kind of more of a squawky kind of synth sound. And then we can put like a low pass afterwards. And then we've got like that full control over low pass and high pass. So also what I like to do is maybe set like LFO to the detune, but not very fast. So it kind of like changes the amount of detune like over time. So we're getting this kind of like slowly changing source as the bar kind of progresses. So what I want to do here is link this macro to this, and then this macro to this. Make things a little bit easier. Okay, so because I'm using the kind of reverb in Serum more as like a sort of sound processing tool as opposed to like a traditional reverb, with this kind of thing, I'll end up usually putting a reverb on the actual channel. Let's put a high pass EQ on here, and let's use the stock standard Cubase reverb. I'll just leave the settings as is. I don't feel like tweaking those too much in depth now, but I mean, you guys can always go back and edit those. So another cool thing to do is to maybe use a bit of noise over here, and we can actually sidechain that to kind of the same sort of thing if we want to use a direct out, because now we might not want to distort the noise. It might get a little bit too hectic. So for those who don't have the latest update of Serum, go get it, because you've got a couple of extra features and it gives you this direct out on the noise. And it's cool because now, because we've got all this kind of distortion and processing going on, we can still get a clean noise out, but to the same kind of like sidechain pattern that we've made with this LFO over here. So let's choose one of these, like JP106, I know is like a classic synth. So let's use that one's noise and let's listen to what this sounds like. So what we can also do is we can set this low pass, because this is a direct out, we can use the pitch of that like noise sample to kind of like filter it out. So let's just use this to modulate downwards as that macro goes up. Check this out. So you're not limited to using this kind of like as a sort of pad sound. It's pretty cool to use like as a sort of more stabby synth sound. And it's also cool to use like different notes, like to put in like a high note every now and then, and maybe like an ever so slight amount of portamento. Check this out. I think that reverb's a little bit hectic on the like before the distortion. Now that I'm listening to it without the track like overlaid it, so we can do a bit of sort of fine tuning here. So what we can do here is let's just make like singular kind of stabby things and then like note changes. I think it was a D sharp, but because it's transposed, it's not actually the D sharp. I don't know what exact note it is, but we're going with that. See how this sounds. Okay, so here I'm just automating this like macro of the high pass filter up a little bit, but I've made it go a little bit too high. And then what I want to do is like, say for example, slowly over this whole section, create like a slow automation of this low pass filter macro. Awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments below. A big thanks to IDM Mag, proud supporters of the dance music scene and my channel. As usual, I'm going to be uploading this preset to my Patreon for all my $5 supporters. So if you want to know what that's all about, check out the link that's going to be somewhere on the screen. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time.